Hey there, this is the Resistor Vic podcast. I'm here to get folks thinking about politics as something that's really about regular people like you and me, and to realize that together we can make a difference. I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to the Resistance. So this is the Resistor Vic election special. I actually do have, I'm not going to call him a guest because it's going to be more of a partner on the episode tonight. Unfortunately, just before I pushed the button to go live, his computer crashed. So once he gets it all up and running, we are going to get him on screen, and we're going to start our conversation about the election. We're going to talk about some of the different races. We're going to talk about what it means, and we're just going to have a conversation. A couple of Main Street Americans talking about this election, and there's plenty of analysis out there. You got the talking heads on all of the major networks, and you've got every political consultant in the world out there, and we're going to give a Main Street view of it. Before I do, or while we're waiting on Mike, for those on the YouTube channel, and for you TikTok too, sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm in two places at once. Hi, Stu. I want to remind everybody that this year's election successes don't have to be over yet, because in Tennessee 7, Afton Bain, who was my guest 3-4 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Afton Bain, there's a special election for a congressional seat in Tennessee. And she had her primary election a couple of weeks ago, and she won. And she's a progressive candidate. The seat that she's running on was vacated by a Republican who took over, or he got that seat. It's a very red district. And he got caught in an affair and using his campaign money for sketchy things, I think. Don't quote me on that. That's all alleged. And then he quit after he voted on the big ugly bill. He quit his seat in Congress and moved to Ghana. I don't know, maybe it's a non-extradition country. I don't know. But anyway, that left the seat open, and there were, I want to say 7 Democrats running, maybe not that many. I'm old. My memory can get kind of fuzzy sometimes. There's Mike. So anyway, before I get to Mike, Afton Bain is running for Congress. Her election against the Republican that's running is December 2nd. Early voting, if you're in Tennessee or know somebody in Tennessee that you can call in the 7th District, which takes in Clarksville, where Fort Campbell is, and it takes in a good part of Nashville. If you got somebody in Tennessee, call them and say, make sure you go and vote in this election. And I've got her website up on the screen on my YouTube. Her website is Afton, AFTYN, forcongress.com. Go there and drop her a couple of bucks if you got them. I mean, right now, I feel kind of weird asking people to donate to campaigns when so many people are running out of, they're not getting paid because of the federal shutdown, and they're not getting their SNAP benefits because they work full-time at Walmart but still can't afford it. And the shutdown is causing them to lose their SNAP benefits. So it feels kind of weird to say, if you got a couple of bucks, send them to Afton. So when I say if, I mean if you've got a couple of extra bucks that you can send, go and send them to Afton Bain. I forgot to do that. So on screen, we've got Big Mike, a content creator from the Denver area, and he does a lot of political content. And now we are going to talk about this election, just two friends talking. So
absolutely. How do I sound? Am I coming through clear?
You sound great to me. Well, tell them what LL is, because I don't want to get the facts wrong on that one.
So here in Colorado, we have something called TABOR. It stands for the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. Essentially, it limits the amount of income the state can keep. So if it takes in more than it had said it would, it's got to return that to the taxpayers. LL essentially allows the state to hold on to that extra money that they took in to use it for its stated purpose, which is the I forget the name of the program, the Healthy Food for All program.
Right.
And if there's any left over after that, they can use it for supplemental nutrition assistance.
There you go. And MM said, we're going to continue to fund that even more by putting a tiny little tax on anybody who makes over $300,000 a year. And both of those passed. And the thing that excited me about that is I just did a video a week or so ago where I talked about making our states stronger. If we fortify our state governments so that they work, so that democracy works in our state governments, then the things that Trump and his minions are doing in Washington are going to be less harmful to us. And LLMM, I cited in that video, it's a great example of how we make our state stronger. And we get to feed kids. So what other elections up there in your neck of the woods? I understand Aurora, a very red part of Denver Metro, went blue.
Yeah, and basically a clean sweep, I believe, and not just Aurora. I think it was also Centennial. Went from like majority red to majority blue. The city council and both mayorships, I believe.
And school board elections
Or
all over the state.
Not mayor in Aurora. The mayor of Centennial for sure went blue.
Yeah. So that's just Colorado. But we've also got, let's see. I'm looking at my notes, and the first at the top of my notes is too big to rig. I think what we saw yesterday was a great example that when people turn out strong enough that, you could send, like in LA, they were sending ICE and National Guard members to monitor the elections. And people said, you know what, screw you guys, we're going to show up and vote anyway. They did not let that deter them. They still showed up, and they showed up in humongous numbers and passed Prop 50 2-1.
That's right. I think what we saw was the power of organizing, the power of community, and not to undermine all the work that these people have put into their campaigns, but I think what we saw was a huge fuck you to Donald Trump.
Yes.
Which is
No
great.
other way to put it.
Right, which is fantastic.
No better way.
But I don't want the Democratic Party to think that will be enough. I don't want to rest on our laurels and be like, oh, well, everybody's pissed off, so they'll just come vote. No. What we saw in New York is replicable everywhere. And what it is giving people something to vote for instead of against.
As long as we're talking about New York, though, I don't want to let this go. What did you look at? Did you have a chance? I know you worked today. I worked today. Anyway, and I also checked as soon as I got home. I flipped on the news and started looking on the internet for reactions. Have you seen any of the establishment reactions to Mamdani's win? Establishment.
I saw Schumer's, and maybe Jeffrey.
I missed his, so tell me what his reaction was.
So they asked who he voted for, I believe.
And he wouldn't say?
And he would not say, yeah.
That sumbitch voted for Cuomo.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But that's what we expect. I think me and you are on the same page here where I trust Chuck Schumer about as far as I can throw him. I think all of these people need to be primaried and gotten out of the way.
Absolutely.
and it frankly has nothing to do with age and more to do with just his view of the Democratic
Allegiance to the
Party.
oligarchs.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I, if I were Hakeem Jeffries right now, because he's in New York City, right? If I
Yeah.
were
Oh yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries right now, I would be worried because right now, maybe one of those people who was working on Mom Donnie's campaign is thinking, you know what? We've got the organization right here. We're going to pull an AOC and we're going to take Hakeem Jeffries out and get a real people's person in, another people's person for
Oh
New
yeah.
York.
Schumer too. Schumer too. He is not immune, and
Well,
he's
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 not
in
up for
Montana's
reelection
district.
until 28, I think.
Um, well, God bless,
So,
because he probably won't make another round. I can tell you that.
no, I don't. My money says he doesn't even run again, especially after this.
Yeah.
But I think we need to start a meme or something. Call it the Mom Donnie method. And we need to make it like a litmus test for our candidates going forward. If
Right.
you
Just
want my vote, then
primary
you
every
have to do it the
candidate.
Mom Donnie way.
Yeah. I think we just have to primary every one of these candidates. You know, I think that's where we're
Absolutely.
at. What we saw was Mamdani take on not only a political dynasty, but um, a former governor, um, like one of the most powerful people in New York politics, possibly ever.
Swatted him away like a fly.
Crushed him, crushed him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he did
uh,
it the old fashioned way,
yeah,
talking to people.
that's right. A laser focus on affordability, um, and none of the bullshit answers, which I think is also super important. I think what people like, what they're seeing with Mondani, with Graham Plattner, um, is they just tell you what they're thinking. They don't play around, you know.
They're
Um,
not letting the consultants tell them what to tell you.
that's right. And I think it's very clear when you talk about Israel with these people. I don't know if you saw Cory Booker's interview recently, or when they asked,
I saw something about a month ago.
yeah, with the ladies from the is it Fed Up podcast, or I'm Sick of This podcast, something like that.
I don't know.
And then Newsom had a very similar experience when asked about APAC, and he was like, "Oh, nobody's asked me about APAC before. This is interesting,"
But he never
but
answered the question, did
but
he?
never answered the question. That's right. And
Yeah.
I think the Democratic Party is not stupid. Like they see right through that shit. And I don't think that shit's gonna fly anymore. Especially when you have people like Zoran and Graham Plattner who will just get up there and be like, "No, he's a war criminal."
One of the YouTube comments up here, AOC and Jasmine Crockett should be in charge of Congress and Senate respectively. One of them should run for Senate. I was thinking a lot about AOC today. And I was thinking, the conventional wisdom says that it would be dumb to run her as a candidate for president in 28. But I mean, my first instinct is I want her in Chuck Schumer's seat. But I also, if somebody told me that she was running for president, I would be all in, 100%.
Interesting. And not to get too far from yesterday's election, but I was at the Bernie rally here in Denver with her and Bernie, and it was just electric. And I think that's what Bernie is preparing her for, either a Senate run or a presidential run. It's kind of unclear which, but I think she's got bigger fish to fry lined up. So
Yeah. And you're right. We don't want to get too far from yesterday's election. So let's contrast New York a little bit with Virginia and New Jersey, because there's some similarities, but there's also some big differences in terms of the kind of people that ran. So in Virginia and New Jersey, we have two younger, similarity with Zohran Mamdani. They're younger, but they are not nearly as far left as Mamdani is, but they still won by double-digit margins. And they did it by doing some of the stuff that Mamdani was doing, by talking about working class issues, the price of housing and getting a paycheck and healthcare and things like that. And they won handily. So does that mean Mamdani is the model, or is there a bigger picture to consider here?
I mean, you could even argue that, they took cues from Trump. I mean, Trump talked about a lot of these issues. Is he going to do anything about any of them? Absolutely not.
Right.
But I think they saw the success of that and, copied it. I think even arguably Bernie from 2016, that's what blew Bernie up, was talking about working class issues that, frankly, the Democratic Party had gotten away from. And he gave Hillary a hell of a fight. And unfortunately, at that time, they had, the DNC had their thumb on the scale and was able to fight Bernie back.
Well, they were jumping on it with both feet, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you think the Republicans are going to react to yesterday? What's your take on that?
That is, I actually addressed that in my brief video this morning. I told people to be prepared because Trump's going to come out with fire and fury, as he likes to say. And, be prepared. Don't panic, organize. He's going to try to scare us. He's going to try to threaten us. He's going to try to intimidate us. And we can't let him. And as I said, don't panic, organize.
But getting back to the Republican reaction, I spent a lot of time thinking about that today. It's like, what are they going to do? I mean, a best case scenario is they went into their meetings today and said, the only chance we have of winning in 2026 is going to be if we completely shift gears and come out against Trump. And I think there's a tiny possibility of that happening, except as somebody else pointed out in one of their videos, and I wish I could remember who she was so I could give her credit. The only Republican base left are the hardcore MAGA racist, good old boy portion of the Republican Party. So who are these Republicans going to go out and chase votes for? If they were to get back to their Republican roots, then maybe they could recapture some of their own electorate. But I don't know if it's not just flat out too late for them, as long as the Democrats don't snatch victory from, or what's that saying? Snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or snatch defeat from the, you know what I mean? They're going to screw it up.
I know what you mean. I forget the order.
Yeah.
Snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, something like that. Yeah. I got to say, I don't have much faith in the Republicans at all. I think they're going to stick with Trump until the very end, whether that's in office or out of office, or whether they try to run him for round 3. Or
if they do, then he's going to have to get even crazier. That's what I worry about. Like before the election, he was talking about revoking Mamdani's citizenship if he wins, right? And cutting off New York's money. And today, Steve Miller issued a long statement that was basically a threat on immigrant children in New York. Listing a whole bunch of stats about how many people in New York are immigrants and how many of them are kids, and how things might have to be done and things like that. So my fear is that they will try and live up to those threats and implied threats. My hope, if they do, and could you imagine ICE showing up to City Hall to try and take Mamdani into custody? Can you imagine millions of New Yorkers taking the street and say, you're going to have to get through us first?
They would do it. Yeah, I would. If anyone from New York is listening, get this out there. Defend that man with your life. Like
Absolutely.
they're going to come after him, and that's what I'm saying is uh, Trump's going to freak out over this. I don't think he has the emotional wherewithal to handle this. He's barely there mentally as it is. Uh, yeah, I think Stephen Miller is really running the show. I mean, you have his wife threatening Cenk Uygur's citizenship the other day on a news show because she lost a
Yeah.
debate to him. Um, and they're coming after these people, and they don't care. The old days of hiding their racism and hiding their bigotry is over. It's all out in the open. They know what they're doing, but it has limited their base.
So
I think a
how
lot of
does
people.
this election affect all that, though? Is it going to make them more reflective or more emboldened?
It's going to make them more panicked. Is my fear. Um, like a cornered animal, you know. They're going to lash out. This is what fascism is. Fascism is the use of the government-sponsored terrorism and violence to maintain their control over the working class. And this was a fucking roundhouse kick to the face by the working class um, with the election of Zoran Mamdani. And Trump is essentially, he's the mouthpiece of the capital oligarchs. And he's going to do everything he can to put this down right now. I mean, he's said as much. Like, I'm not even making this up. This is what he's saying. Be prepared is what I'm warning. If anyone here is from New York, be prepared. They're going to come for you guys. They're going to try to intimidate you, and you've got to be ready. Don't panic. Organize.
So here's a related but different $1 million question for you. How many people think that yesterday's election is going to put enough fear into the congressional Republicans that they will try and gain favor by actually releasing the Epstein files?
Again, I think they're all bootlickers, man. I don't think they're going to part from Trump as long as he's the head honcho. I mean, we've seen MTG kind of split off, and according to AOC, at least, that's more of a personal revenge tour because he told her no to running to Senate in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
for the record, I'm not buying into any of Marjorie Taylor Greene's new persona. I think she's still as dumb and phony as the day is long. She's just seeing that she's screwed. She's not going to get reelected, so she's trying to salvage it.
and again, I think she felt betrayed by the Trump administration. She didn't get an administration position. And then on top of that, she wanted to run for Senate, and basically Trump said no.
Yeah.
So now she's doing everything she can to be a thorn in his side. I don't
Hell
think
hath no fury like a woman scorned.
That's right. That's right. I don't think it's genuine.
Yeah. So here's one way I could possibly see it playing out. Going back to the Epstein files again, if the Republicans are sitting there outside of Trump's earshot and trying to figure out how they're going to get him off of their backs, get that monkey off of their back, one way that they could do it would be to release the Epstein files. Get it all out there. Hold nothing back on the Epstein files and let that tear down Trump and all of his buddies. Unfortunately, it would also tear down a lot of the Republican donors, is my suspicion. But
And Democratic. Don't be shy.
true, touche. It would take out a lot of Democratic donors as well, I'm sure. But that would be one way that they could get Trump off of their back so that they don't have him going forward into the next election. So that could be a possible side effect of yesterday.
True. I mean, I would love to see the files come out. And again, they might not have a choice once this government reopens. So that would be great. Sure.
Do you think yesterday's election victory was more pro-Democrat or more anti-Republican?
But I do think the anti-Trump, the anti-ICE. I mean, just the level of violence that this administration has perpetrated on the American people, I really think pushed a lot of people out to vote. And I don't want the Democrats to take this and run to I don't want them to rest on their laurels after this.
Yeah. Well, I think it was more, a little bit at least more. And again, I'm with you. I don't want to discount the people who won yesterday, but they wouldn't have won if they wouldn't have went out and got all that work done and let people know who they were and that they were on the ballot. But in a lot of places, I think you could have just said, I'm Bob Smith and I'm running against the Republican. And that would have got Bob Smith the vote.
Right.
And I got to back that up. I looked at some of the numbers. I was expecting a huge turnout everywhere yesterday. I mean, when I saw the results, I thought the results came out of a huge turnout. But when I ran a bunch of numbers today, the only place where I can definitively say that's true is in New York City. They had more people vote in their mayoral election than they've had in the last
60 years, I think.
50, yeah, since 1969. So that's what, 76 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been 76 years since people turned out in New York for a mayoral election like they did yesterday. In the other places, New York or Virginia, New Jersey, and so forth, the turnout numbers were pretty average for these elections. I was expecting them to be a lot higher, but they were just a little bit higher in most of the places. Now in California, I think that was all about fighting back, because that was an election, the Prop C election. There were no candidates on that ballot. It was just yes or no on Proposition C. And they had tremendous turnout, and it won 2-1. So I think that one is definitely an FU Trump vote. And I think the Mamdani vote was a pro-Mamdani election because of the sheer number of people who worked for him and showed up for him throughout the whole thing. And I think the rest of them were a mix of great candidates, but also were voting against Trump and the Republican Party.
Absolutely. And again, not to discount the work. I understand it is so much work to run a campaign.
You know, having been on and run a campaign, I can tell you that nobody's going to be offended. They get it. They know how this stuff works. So,
right.
Yeah.
The thing I'm worried about again is the thing I'm worried about again is the Democrats have this habit of, you know, we do well in the midterms or the off-year election, and they're like, oh, great, now everybody hates the Republicans, we can just stroll on into the regular election and, you know, kind of do the same thing, put up the same candidates. And I don't think that's where we are now. Like we said earlier, I don't think Schumer has a chance of winning again. Jeffries is in a tight spot if he doesn't change up soon.
He's not going to change. There's no way he changes.
And
I think somebody in New York has to run against him.
I'll say it right now. Hickenlooper and Bennett both need to go.
Oh, hell yeah.
And thank God Bennett.
Have you noticed how bad Hickenlooper looks? One of his Facebook posts, he looks like somebody put his suit on him, and it's the suit that he wore when he was a younger, bigger man.
And he's talking about running again?
Yeah, he's 73 years old, dude. He needs to retire. He's already a multimillionaire. Why does he need more money?
Yeah.
He needs to make way.
I don't understand what these people are thinking. You know, we had a member of Congress that was basically shuttled off to an old folks home at some point a few months ago. Who was that?
That was the one in Texas?
Yeah. Just missing. No one knows where she is. Turns up she's in an old folks home because she has no idea where she fucking is.
Right. Well, Grijalva, and I'm not busted on Adelita Grijalva, but he died after he was reelected, but he knew he was dying before he ran for reelection. That's that kind of stuff. So, and since we mentioned Hickenlooper, for those of you who are might care, Karen Breslin is a very progressive, very good candidate in my estimation. Political science professor, a lawyer. She worked for the National Forest Service for a lot of years in policy, and I think she would make a great senator, especially compared to John Hickenlooper. But she's having trouble getting traction because she's going up against a incumbent senator in Colorado. We've got a state party that will prop up the incumbents and the establishment candidates to no end. So look up Karen Breslin if you want to support another Democrat.
And I believe there's another young man getting in the race named, I believe his name is Brashad.
Does everybody even know how extensive the victory was yesterday? I mean, we've got the ones that we all know about, the Virginia governor and lieutenant governor and state attorney general. You got the New Jersey governor, lieutenant governor, the 3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices who, if they had lost, then all kinds of things in Pennsylvania would have changed. The mail-in voting would have went away. All kinds of bad things would have happened for democracy in Pennsylvania. And they won, I want to say 2-1. There was a ballot initiative in Maine that would have done away with mail-in voting, and it was soundly defeated. Is it the Virginia House of Delegates? Is that the one that they're expecting to pick up like 64 seats?
I didn't see if it was, that might be the total.
It was a huge number that they're going to flip. Mississippi, in Mississippi, the Republicans had a supermajority, and they lost enough seats last night that they're no longer going to have a supermajority. So they're not going to.
2 Senate seats, and the Republicans lost 2 Senate seats in Mississippi, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is, blood red.
Yeah. You don't get any redder than Mississippi. So let's see, what else? In Georgia, I've got to mention some names.
Back up for 1 second. In Virginia, they flipped 13 seats, putting them at 64 seats in the House of Delegates. Okay.
But now they've got the majority in the House of Delegates.
And I think they might have a supermajority, actually.
Yeah. So Diane and John dropped me an email, and Original Smartmouth on TikTok, they all sent me messages about how they have 2 new Democrats on the Georgia Public Service Commission instead of none in recent memory. It has been literally decades since those statewide offices had Democrats in them in Georgia.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good thing for John Ossoff, who I'm still mad at.
Why is that?
Ossoff, he ticked me off in the last campaign last year because he was sending out fundraising emails as if he were on the ballot last November. And I knew he wasn't. So I'm like, dude, you're taking away contributions that could go to people who are running this year.
Yeah.
And that really turned me off. But Texas, Ramona from TikTok dropped me a note and said, State Senate District 9 is going to a runoff. So if you live in Texas, State Senate District 9, the fight's not over. Get out there, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends and your relatives, and tell them to vote, because that's going to be a runoff election. And currently, the Democrat is leading. This is a seat that has never been blue before, and it went for Trump. But the Democrat's leading in the runoff election. So you guys need to get out there and make sure that you keep up the fight. Here's one of my notes. Something else I was thinking about after yesterday's results. How many people do you think are out there who wanted to run? They were toying with the idea of running in this election for city council or school board or state house or what have you, whatever was up in their place, and thought, no, I just don't think I could win. And now how many of them are thinking, man, I should have run? You? Are you one of them?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, my plan was to build up this following and then use them as my donating army.
There you go. Well, I'll help you with that.
Fantastic. But I mean, further down the line. But I had a question for you. What do you think? Which race do you think is going to have, or I should say, which race do you think has the most impact nationally from yesterday?
Out of all the ones from yesterday?
Yeah.
If I think about it, I don't think there's any question that it's Mamdani.
Yeah.
By the sheer fact of how he did it.
Okay.
Because he put out a model out there. And did you catch his speech, his acceptance speech?
Oh my God, yes.
That was one of the most incredible speeches I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And it was incredible because it was visionary, it was inclusive, it was determined, and it was people-based. It wasn't donor-based. It wasn't about the party. It was about the people who came together and worked so hard to put him where he is right now. And it was just unbelievably inspiring. And when I put that speech together with how he got elected and the people who came out against him, the oligarchy, big time, AIPAC, Chuck Schumer, when I think of the power that was lined up to keep him from winning, and he still won, I think he left us the model for any Democrat in the country. And like for the presidential election, I said this in my video today, it's like, if you want to run for president in 2028 and you can't put out a speech like Mondami gave last night, I don't want to hear from you. I mean, I'm not looking for another consultant class, consultant driven, consultant advised political candidate. I'm looking for a real leader like I saw last night.
It was phenomenal. I do feel as if I'm still a little jaded from Obama, who of course spoke beautifully and didn't always deliver on the progressive values that he espoused. So I
think Obama was in a hell of a tight spot because he was the first black president. And I'm sorry, but half the country was waiting for him to fail. Half the country was waiting for him to get angry about something. They were waiting for him to have some kind of ethical problem. And they were just sitting there. And hell, half of the reason MAGA's mad is because he never did have those problems. And I think that the whole no drama Obama thing was a part of why he couldn't get more done. I think if the second black president was Barack Obama instead of the first, I think he could have got a lot more done.
I mean, this is true. He was definitely, up against, forces I couldn't even imagine. I just think, dropping the public option out of the ACA, one of the biggest mistakes in possibly American history.
I agree.
And then on top of that, when he coalesced this huge base of supporters and basically turned them all over to the DNC and Rahm Emanuel, and they basically said,
Yeah.
cut that. We don't want them that organized.
That was his first biggest mistake, was taking the coalition and the network that he built and then just turning them off after he got elected. If he would have held on to the reins on that information and that outreach, I think he could have got a lot more done.
We probably never would have got Trump if we had
Probably
done that.
not. He would have been able to shut down all that birther crap.
Yeah.
But,
so a couple of big mistakes. But again, Mamdani's speech was inspiring. It was beautiful. That stuff just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Well, I don't base everything just on the speech.
Right.
But
course.
It was, like I say, the speech that he gave, plus the work that he put into it, the way that he went against all of that power and still won. When I put all of that together, it's a complete package. Now, I would never support somebody simply for a speech,
and I just want to see him try. I'd rather see somebody try and fail than just give up halfway through.
Right.
So as long as he puts in a good faith effort, I am willing to say, let's give it a go. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't make him the ultimate ruler of New York City. He still has to have a city council that's going to give him the things he wants. He's going to have to depend on the state of New York to change some laws to do the things that he wants. So he's got a very tough row to hoe. But like you said, I want to see him try, and I want to see the people who get in his way tell him no. I want to see them have the guts to tell him no.
Yeah.
And see what he does when they do.
Yeah, I want to see Kathy Hochul's response when he says, I've got 51% of New York that says they're not going to vote for you if this doesn't happen.
Yeah. So we are getting close to an hour, and I want to limit how much I have to edit because it takes a lot of work to edit the podcast episodes. So
I'll just do what I do and just put them up anyway.
I might on this one because this is the election special.
That's right.
I want to reiterate what you've said several times tonight, and that is we cannot slow down. We can't say, good, we won, now we can relax. We've got another special election in December in Tennessee, Afton Bain, AFTYN 4 FOR Congress.com. We need to help her. We need to do everything we can. I saw her in an interview today. She was saying that part of the reason why they think that, or there's a theory out there that's gaining traction, Mike Johnson is not swearing in Adelita Grijalva because they're counting on Afton Bain losing in Tennessee, and that seat would counteract the vote that Adelita Grijalva would provide for releasing the Epstein files. But if Afton Bain wins this election, then that plan goes straight out the window for the Republicans. They're not going to have a choice.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that.
Another reason to keep the pedal to the metal and get behind Afton Bain, her election is December 2nd. Early voting in Tennessee starts the 12th of this month. So, a little more than a week away. So, folks, take a day, rejoice in this victory, but don't think that we can stop. We've got to get busy and look at our primaries. We've got to make sure the candidates that we're going to support in the primaries are actual, like any of the candidates who won yesterday and won big. People who are talking about Main Street American issues, people who are talking about making housing affordable and making sure we all have a paycheck and that those who need SNAP and things like that get SNAP and things like that. We've got
for those of you who don't know, that's what I'm doing on my channel, is trying to find those progressive candidates, at least here in the Denver Metro at the moment. I'm reaching further out as I gain more followers. So make sure to check out my channel. I have interviews with progressive candidates from anywhere from District 4, and then city council candidates. If you know any progressive candidates that are running, send them my way. I would love to interview them, get them on camera. And I'm not making endorsements of any of these people. I'm just giving them a platform. The Democratic Party here in Colorado has a bad habit of just rolling with whoever the donors choose. And we are trying to stop that on my channel, Big Mike on TikTok. And find me on Patreon if you support. It's $5 a month. That's all I'm asking. All my content is free on TikTok. Just trying to get to where I can do this full time and I don't have to work 70 hours a week.
There you go. Have you interviewed Trisha Calvarese yet?
I have. I interviewed Trisha and John.
I missed that
in
one.
District 4.
You're not endorsing anybody, but I am all in for Trisha because I ran for that seat in 2014.
I do love Trisha.
Yeah.
John also made a resounding progressive case. So it's not my district, so I'm not going to get. I'm not going to.
And I respect that.
Yeah,
but I'm all in.
Maybe
for
in
Trisha.
my district, I might make a recommendation in my district.
So, folks, if you're listening to us, whether you're watching us on YouTube or TikTok or listening on one of the podcast channels that this gets published on tomorrow, get out there and support candidates. And when I say support, it comes in many ways. Maybe you don't have an extra $5, but if you're listening to this, then you're on social media somehow. Like, share, and comment on all their stuff. Help them reach out to the general public. And if you have it within you to work on a campaign, there are so many ways to work on a campaign. You can text people from the comfort of your own home. You can sit there on your phone, give it an hour a night, an hour a week. Anything that you can do helps. If you like to do door-to-door, I can tell you when I ran for Congress, going door-to-door was my absolute favorite part of the campaign because of those super nice people that you meet when they come and answer their door. You can make phone calls for them in phone banks. There are so many different ways that you can help a candidate.
You can even
Please
text.
do.
You don't even have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, with a text, you don't even have to talk to anybody.
Yeah. So if you're an anxious avoidant type, go for it.
Yeah. And even if you're just taking the time to say, okay, I live in District 1 of the state of Timbuktu. Who's running to represent me in Congress or in the State House or what have you? Look up the people who want your vote and learn about them. And then when you go to coffee with your friends or you're talking to your neighbor, you can have an informed conversation about these people and you can help that way. I mean, that is literally the least you could do, but it is not unimportant at all. So we've got to do that if we want to keep this snowball rolling down the hill and getting bigger. Those are the kinds of things that we have to do. We have to get out there and actively support good candidates and don't let the party tell us who we're supposed to support.
That's right. And I would just like to end on don't panic, organize. Trump is going to come after us after this. Be prepared. Don't panic, organize. And
I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast portion of this. Mike, don't go away. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll go muted on the YouTube Live. For all of those of you who joined us, thank you very much for coming and listening to us. And for those who are listening to the podcast after it publishes, thanks for making us part of your day. Well, folks, looks like we're back at the barn and it's time to call it a day. I sure do appreciate you spending your time with me. If you want to help keep this podcast going by supporting me, you can get a paid subscription on Substack where I'm Resistor Vic. Or if you're the type that'd rather go to PayPal, I'm also resistorvic@gmail.com. Thanks again.